Okay, thank you guys for joining us today. I am Casey Robertson from Louisiana Tech University. I am the one that teaches the Braille courses and all the courses for teachers to be certified as teachers of the blind, except O&M. And Kristen's going to introduce herself in just a minute. I am also the vice president of NBPCB, which certifies non-visual O&M instructors. So those O&M instructors that are blind.
So I'm going to tell you your opening code as well. Opening code is 2315. And then I'll tell you the closing code will be at the end, I believe. Yep, 2315. You need that? Okay. You can go back to it. I'll go to my name now. I will also give you guys some picture descriptions for those who need them. My name is Kristen Sims. I have a master's of education. I am certified NOMC, which is National Orientation and Mobility Certification. I also have a national certification in Unified English Braille. That's useful sometimes with O&M. And I teach our structured discovery programs at Louisiana Tech University. I train professionals to teach non-visually. So in this picture, that is downtown New Orleans. That is not where we live. That's just how we get people to come to our university. I'm joking. There are three people. You can see one of them is wearing learning shades. There's a person behind her. He has natural shades. He doesn't see anything at all. And then behind him is another traveler. She's also totally blind, and they are traveling in New Orleans. We do lots of trips and things like that. So it was just a really cool picture. The one in the front is actually, she was in immersion at the time. So she was not a O&M candidate, but now is a certified O&M instructor.
Okay, structured discovery, they set us up, did a nice segue into our PowerPoint with the presentation if you were in here before. Structured discovery is a very different method of how orientation and mobility instructors are trained. Structured discovery was first applied to teaching of orientation and mobility, which is cane travel, in 1984. But the history of structured discovery goes long before that. Blind people began using what we refer to as structured discovery or cane travel, non-visual cane travel, in the 1950s in Iowa. Jim Whitten, one of the he later wrote a instructional manual for non-visual techniques in orientation and mobility. He termed this the Jernigan method, and that was after Dr. Kenneth Jernigan. Well, after that, the history of structured discovery continued to move forward, and Alan Dodd from England came to Nebraska to look at what structured discovery was and to gain more information about this. At that time, it was not called structured discovery. Okay, it was called the Jernigan method. Well, Alan Dodd is the one that coined the term structured discovery. Since then, structured discovery has continued to develop as a teaching methodology, and we teach this in 3 centers across the United States and in multiple other centers that are not certified structured discovery centers, but they're waiting on their certification process to go through. So by the end of this year, we hope to have 9 centers across the United States that will be teaching the structured discovery method. The certification that these professionals hold is called an NOMC, the National Orientation Mobility Certification. These teachers have to go through a rigorous training of immersion, and we're going to talk more about that in just a minute, of the training that they have to take to be able to monitor students non-visually.
So I'm just going to start with breaking down what structured discovery is. A lot of times when people think of structured discovery, they think of it just being the exploratory area of instruction, but really there is a very specific structured component, and that is the majority of what I would be teaching as the instructor for these future professionals. Our future professionals learn to set goals and expectations for their students. That's no different than any O&M instructor. They will also learn to control input through lesson design. They learn to guide student understanding, and this is where it's a little bit of difference. There's a little bit of difference. We ask questions instead of giving information. So we use a lot of Socratic questioning technique. We also create space for the development of perceptual awareness. So we're teaching these instructors to back off a little bit. I'm sure those of you who prepare professionals have to teach them that as well. So, but we want the learner to be able to have opportunities to learn. That takes time. And we also teach instructors to foster student self-efficacy. So that's the way that they're feeling about their own performance. So the other part of structured discovery would be the discovery part. That is that learning takes place through error detection and resolution. So that is how all learning takes place for anyone. So in order to do something, to learn something, you have to make mistakes, right? Everything else is practice. If you're not making mistakes, you're practicing a skill. So we allow students, we allow our future instructors to go through an opportunity to where they learn to do this as well. And that's what we call immersion. So that's the first phase, and they're learning to do this discovery part. They have to learn to do it themselves so that way they can allow their students this opportunity as well. The skills, all these skills that we teach during guided techniques where we're actually giving instruction, they are assessed through the independence performance. So we do have our students go out on independent assignments, and independent assignments means the instructor does not go with them at all. The instructor goes out with another student, and that student goes out and completes independent assignments. Now, if you've done your job as an instructor, that's what our goal is anyway, right? That the person would be able to travel completely independently. So we structure things so that way, whenever they've learned skills, they're able to then practice that. Our future instructors are trained to do this as learners first, and then they gradually turn towards being the person who's setting up those scenarios. The information that is gained through firsthand experience is more easily retained and generalized. So you can't tell someone what to expect and then them to retain it. They will retain it for as long as it takes for you to complete the task, but it does not generalize. So you can't take it and move it to another situation. So when a person learns something by experiencing that error and then correcting for that error, they are able to retain that information more for longer term and able to use it in different but similar situations. Experiential learning actively engages reflexive thinking, problem solving, and it promotes self-direction. So that's why we do discovery. Do you want to take that part?
Yeah, I can. Instructional services through the structured discovery method is non-visual skills, problem-solving techniques, experimental learning, and confidence-building experiences. A lot of people think structured discovery is the long white cane and the O&M, and that's it. But in this process, we use it through all of our courses at Louisiana Tech because we build on problem-based problem-solving techniques. And we also give them experiences. We bring them to the experience and they experience it firsthand, and then we build the knowledge on that. So structured discovery is a methodology that goes across all of our curriculum.
So in this picture, we are actually on a rock climbing trip. And so mixed within this group of people who are coming down some stairs that are built into the side of a hill, they all have their long canes. It was raining that day. And so we're like the postman. We go out no matter what the weather is like. And we're always traveling because you still have to get to your job, even if it's raining. So everybody's wearing raincoats and they have their very long canes. So we have a mix of instructors and students. They're all kind of mixed together in that line, with the very last person being another instructor. But we're following a footpath that is not, it's like we call them deer trails. It's just worn ground. So it's not a paved path. We're off-roading with our cane, if you will. So to just go into what non-visual skills we're doing, we do use learning shades or sleep shades. We have a pair here. They completely block out the light. There is no light used at all. You can see this, this is Halloween. So we're pumpkin carving. All of the instructors, and so that's an instructor, one of my grad student interns, she's helping to support a student who is carving a pumpkin. So using a knife, not a special adapted knife, a regular butcher knife, to cut the top off of a pumpkin, and learning to do it in a non-visual safe way. The person who's teaching is non-visual, and the student is also doing things non-visual. The reason that we do that is to make sure that the students all realize that the amount of vision a person has is not what's keeping them protected, that the skills that we're teaching are actually skills that we use. We also use a long white cane. So I have one with me. This long white cane is made of flexible fiberglass. It is, it's rigid. It's rigid, but it's kind of not rigid. It will actually bend almost in half. So it bends quite a bit. It's got a lot of bounce to it. It is hollow and it has a round grip, and it has a metal tip. So the metal tip is removable. It comes off. It's only held on there with a screw and a washer. So it's very inexpensive. This cane costs about $21 US. The tips cost about $2, and they last, depending on how much travel someone is doing, they will last around a month. The canes will last forever if you treat them right. So we use a very specific kind of cane, as they talked about in the last presentation. We also teach problem-solving techniques. So part of our problem-solving techniques involves the use of Socratic questioning, Bandura's theories of self-efficacy, Piaget's cognitive learning theory, and we also use motivational interviewing, which is an ORS technique. It's a counseling technique to get people to think about their perceptions. The motivational interviewing portion takes place after the lesson. Socratic questioning takes place during the lesson. It's a way of getting someone to think through the situation that they find themselves in without giving them information. We're constantly finding ways to build someone's self-efficacy. And if you were my grad students, I'd be asking you, how do you do that? But you do that through giving people things that are achievable, but not easily achieved. So you want to make sure that you're constantly putting the carrot out in front of someone. You're trying to get them to move forward with their skills, but you don't want to give them things that are so hard that they cannot accomplish them. These are just some pictures. Oh, I forgot to describe that picture. So this is us also doing some rock climbing experiences. So people are figuring out how to get around this. We are not breaking into someone's property. There is actually a gate on the other side, but it does look like they're trying to get around a gate. And instead of the instructor telling the person how to get around the gate, even though she had already gotten around the gate, she's just letting her figure it out. And then you can see our driver in the background. He was coming along too. We were actually going to hike up the highest point in Louisiana, which is 200 feet. So not very tall. So we do a lot of experiential learning. Experiential learning would be learning through having experiences. And, you know, quite often there are plenty of people who don't have the opportunity to explore and learn. And this builds up people's self-confidence quite effectively. So we have a girl lighting a candle, a man riding a horse, a student going through a tunnel, crawling through a maze, and then a young boy and a blind mentor learning to mix. Right. So we do a lot of confidence building experiences. Our students learn and actually develop some confidence building experiences. One, so the reasons for that is that it builds that intrinsic feedback. So people learn that they're able to accomplish things they didn't think they could before. It creates team building within our students. We operate through the Louisiana Center for the Blind, and the Louisiana Center for the Blind typically has a staff of about 10, but about 20 to 30 students that come through, plus graduate students. So we go on these big trips about 3 times a year. It also builds student-teacher rapport, because part of structured discovery is that the instructor is more a facilitator for creating conversation, getting someone to think through problems, and less of a instructor. They're not teaching them outside of the first initial foundational skills. They don't really give them a lot of directives. It's more opportunities to explore and learn. So it's more of a, I don't know, more of an equal relationship. Okay. The biggest part of our structured discovery program is really the philosophical component of it. This has to do with the person's attitudes. To be an effective blind mobility instructor, we believe that you have to believe in the skills of blindness. You have to really embrace what it is that you're teaching. You have to know that there is a possibility of someone being independent this way, that I always call it, you have to know in your heart that you will work yourself out of a job sooner rather than later is what you want to do. So we don't expect to be there forever for these students. So we want them to not only embrace their feelings and personal attitudes about their blindness and realize that they can do this, they can be independent, but also that instructor has to believe in blind people and the abilities of blind people, or people who are blind, if you prefer that term. We also, and we do this through role modeling. Even whenever I am teaching, I teach with a blindfold on. In this group of people, you see there's an instructor who is totally blind, who is behind a little girl, and another instructor who is she's actually behind the girl in front of her. So they are monitoring these students who are going on a travel route the kids picked out what they wanted to do for an afternoon thing. And so they are all going down to see a theater production. And so we have plenty of blind mentors that are walking with these students, but the students designed the route. They picked out the way they wanted to go. They are doing everything independently. And the adults are there just to provide just like you would do for any kids going on a group. They're just to provide monitoring, but not necessarily instruction. We also do a fair amount of addressing public conceptions. We are very open about what, how to talk to the sighted public because they don't know how to give directions, and, you know, how to ask good questions, how to deal with some of the, I don't know, I guess you could say the unfairness of life, and kind of addressing some of those things. We have a philosophy class that we do, or a class where people at a structured discovery center will actually kind of talk about struggles and be open about them and what you do. And they can ask other blind people how they deal with those different aspects of blindness. So they're not asking a sighted person because a sighted person doesn't have that understanding. So, and then we also make sure that all of our students and our future instructors understand the importance of giving back to your community. Oftentimes, blind individuals are kind of treated as people who receive a lot of services. And so we want them to feel part of their community by doing things that give back. So we do a lot of community service projects and things like that. So the blind people are giving to their community so that it helps to help create more equality. So then they feel like they've, you know, given to the society that we live in. Okay, so the last little bit we have here is the teaching strategies. This is just all the different ways in which the things that we teach our instructors. So this is all the lecture stuff that they get to listen to me drone on about. We teach them the cognitive learning theory and metacognition. We teach them about Socratic questioning techniques, how they get tired of hearing self-efficacy. It's a big part of it. The different parts of self-efficacy are role modeling, social persuasion, reduction of stress, experience of success. They also learn how to do a proper debrief, and that's a very vital component of structured discovery. That means after the lesson is complete and you're no longer on the side of the road, go back in and really talk through what it is that you did. And then if you were in an earlier session on the kids track, I talked a lot about the promotion model. All of our students also learn how to work with children using structured discovery. So a lot of the same theories, but a different way of going about it. These are all of our different certifications. I have a QR code, so you do not have to memorize these in any way. If you're interested in learning about all of our certifications, you can just go to that QR code. And Casey can tell you quickly what all the certifications are.
Yeah, I have to put in a word for us here. We have NOMC certification, and that's a 5-year renewable certificate for teaching structured discovery method. That's your O&M instructor. Then we have NCRTB certification, and that is a 5-year renewable certification. And it's the only certification which can attest to the individual having met a rigorous standard of rehabilitation teaching for the blind. NCATB, a 3-year renewable certification, and is the only certification which can attest to the individual having met rigorous standards in the area of teaching access and technology. This is new for us. This one just came out this year. And we have the NCUEB. It's a 5-year renewable certification that shows your proficiency in Braille. And that is one of, I call the NCUEB my baby, because I teach the Braille courses and I love for people to pass the NCUEB. And that shows that you're nationally and internationally proficient in Braille.
And I will just say part of the instructional, I neglected to put this in there, but the part of our instructional methodology for the students who come through the master's degree program for O&M, they are logging approximately 900 or more hours under blindfold. So they are getting quite a bit. We do 4 quarters. It's at least 100 hours. I mean, excuse me, it's at least 10 hours per week. Our quarters are 10 weeks. So, but the very first thing they do is they work as they go into a structured discovery center as a consumer, and they learn all the non-visual techniques from 8 to 5 p.m. every day. So they do that for 10 weeks. And then they have 2 blindfold classes. One of them is an apprenticeship. The other is just for them to learn cane travel. And then they have the internship where they get 400 hours under shades teaching.
And if anyone wants to come to the U.S. and be structurally trained as a structure discovery teacher, we do have funding in the program for this year.
That's right. So Ruston's lovely.
Yes. Hot, but lovely.
Yeah.